Hi, I'm Missy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter, from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. So this month we are back with block 2 of our quilt along for the year. So for this month, we are going to make this really fun block. Almost looks like a wave, and we're going to make, again, all 10 colors in this same block. So remember that all of the instructions and everything that we are going over today, you can find in the blog post. So the link is below the description of the video. So go ahead and check that out there. It's going to have all the measurements. If you're more of a visual person with things written down, you'll find diagrams and everything in there as well. So make sure you check that out. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our shop and find your next modern quilting project. Okay, so just a couple of tips that are going to be helpful as you're working on all of these blocks throughout the year. We want to make sure that we go over those so that you just have a reminder. So one thing, starching your fabric before you cut everything out is going to make sure that everything is just nice and crisp. So that is one thing that we do recommend is go ahead and starch your fabric. You do want to starch it before you cut your squares though, because starching it can change the size of your blocks. You want to make sure you starch it first. The other tip is go ahead and use a scant 1/4 inch seam. This allows you to have a slightly bigger block and do any trimming if you need to. So just double check that scant 1/4 inch. If you're also just kind of double checking and making sure that your 1/4 inch really is a true 1/4 inch so that when you're scant, it is a true scant. So just double check that. We do have a video on our channel that talks about checking your machine and making sure that your 1/4 inch seam is a true 1/4 inch seam. So go ahead and check that out. The other item is when you're trimming off your dog ears. So this is going to be on half square triangles, on flying geese, things like that. Make sure that you're only trimming those dog ears and you're not getting into the block itself, because if you get into the block itself, it's going to make that block smaller and then things aren't going to line up the way they need to. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get all of our color pieces cut out for block 2. So we have our strip that we've already cut out previously. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut one at 3 7/8 inch square. So we're going to line our ruler up right there along that 7/8 inch. And then we want to just make sure that this is nice and square. Okay, so our next one, we're going to cut that at 3 inches square. And then we have one that is 2 3/8 inches. So that 3/8 inches is going to be just below your half mark. And then the last one we need is 2 of them at 1 1/2. And this little piece is actually probably going to be big enough. We can get our first 1 1/2 out of it.
That's not what was it.
What was?
What was it?
Now I cut that 1 3/4. And then our second 1 1/2 inch block. And we'll save that piece for later, just in case we need another small piece.
Nope.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, hold on.
I can't read my ruler today. Okay, and then we will go ahead and gather the white pieces that we had cut previously. So we have, again, for this one, it's basically going to be exactly the same. We have one at 3 7/8, one at 3 inches, one at 2 3/8, and then 2 at 1.5 inches. And now we're ready to start sewing our block together. So the first portion of our block, we're actually going to sew a little 4-patch block with the whites and the oranges just on either side of each other. Okay, so we've pressed these open so that they're actually going the opposite direction, so that when we come back, we can nest those seams and they're going to line up really nicely for us. For the rest of this block, it's basically going to be like a square in a square type block. So we're going to take the orange and the white. They are 2 3/8. I'm actually just going to lay them on top of each other, and we're going to cut them from corner to corner on the diagonal. I can go ahead and just cut both of them at the same time. So with our 4-patch, we're going to line these up, but we want to make sure that we're following the same direction every time that we lay these out so that the spiral follows along. So I'm going to take my orange pieces, I'm going to fold them in half, give them a little finger press right here, and then I can line them up right there along that seam. And then again, I'm going to do the same on this side. So the oranges are going to be opposite of each other, and then the whites will be opposite of each other. Okay, now that we've got those sewn on, we want to go ahead and trim this to make sure. So we want our points right here. We want to make sure that we don't lose those. So I'm going to trim all these little dog ears off. But then also when I do that, I'm going to line that up so that my point is right there on the ruler, keeping it as square as we can. And trim off those ears. This is just going to help so you don't lose your points as you're adding the next layer. And then we're going to take our next size of both our orange and our white. So this is the 3-inch square. And again, I'm going to lay them right there on top of each other. Line that up from corner to corner. And now we're going to do the same thing, kind of watching our layout, making sure that we're keeping our curves the way they need to be, our spiral. So our oranges are going to go along there. The whites on this side, we're going to fold this and do a finger press. So we can line it right up that point, and then go ahead and sew these together. Okay, and then we're just going to follow the same repeat that we just did on the last one. We're going to make sure that we're right there, lining that up at 1/4 inch so we don't lose those points. Let's cut off those ears. And then we're going to add our last square into this. So this is our 3 7/8. And I've, again, just put the white and the orange, stacked them on top of each other. Cut them corner to corner. And then we're going to fold them in half again and lay them out to make sure we get our nice spiral for start. So we're going to want to put our oranges on the sides and our white on the top and the bottom. And we're just going to match these points up with that finger press and sew each of these on. And then the last step for this block is just to cut those final dog ears off. It's just going to remove some of the bulk in our final quilt. So we want to go ahead and just get rid of them. Okay, now that we have finished the first block, go ahead and just follow those same instructions. Repeat for the other 10 colors and then go ahead and set those aside. We want to try to find a place where you can keep them nice and flat so that everything is still nice and pressed and you don't have to come back and re-iron the blocks when we put the quilt together itself. And if you do have any questions, go ahead and leave comments in the video. You can go to our blog post, leave comments there, or reach out to us via email. We are happy to help answer any questions that you have as you're working through this project. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see the other projects and things that we are working on throughout this year. And we will see you next time.